So our first lesson is the introduction to solving equations. An equation is a statement that two expressions are equal. An equation usually contains one or more variables. A variable is a symbol that represents many different numbers in a set of numbers. And there is a properties of equality list on the bottom. There are the reflexive, symmetric, transitive, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division properties. Moving on to our first example, we have solve 2x plus 7 equals 5x minus 9. Check your solution by using substitution. We're going to subtract 7 on both sides first, giving us 2x equals 5x minus 16. We then subtract 5x on both sides. Negative 3x equals negative 16. And we divide by negative 3x, giving us x equals 16 over 3. And we want to check our solution now, so we're going to substitute this value into our original equation. And then we simplify, we get 32 over 3. And we're going to put this in over a common denominator. And when we simplify even more, we get 53 over 3 equals 53 over 3, which is true. Moving on to our second example, we're first going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of the bottom fraction. And we get 2x minus 10 equals negative 3x plus 5. We add 10 on both sides, giving us 2x equals negative 3x plus 15. We add 3x on both sides. 5x equals 15, giving us x equals 3. And we're also going to use substitution to check our answer. We get 3 minus 5 equals negative 3 over 2 times 3 plus 5 over 2. Negative 2 equals negative 9 over 2 plus 5 over 2, which is negative 4 over 2. And that simplifies into negative 2. And this equation is also true, verifying our answer as x equals 3. And then our third example is a word problem. Write and solve an appropriate equation. A summer carnival charges a $2 admission fee and $0.50 for each ride. If Tamara has $10 to spend, how many rides can she go on? So we know that they first charge a $2 admission fee, and it's $0.50 per ride, which I'm going to substitute as x, and that all equals to 10. We are going to first subtract both sides to get 0.50x equals 8. And when we divide both sides, we get x equals 16. So she can go on 16 rides. And now we're going to go over a literal equation. A literal equation is an equation that contains two or more variables. Formulas are examples of literal equations, and there are some examples given below. And we're going to go on to our first example of a literal equation. Solve a over a plus 12 times d equals c for d. So we first want to start by rewriting it. And we're going to multiply both sides by a plus 12. A plus 12. And that gives us a times d equals c times a plus 12. And now we're going to divide a on both sides, giving us d equals c times a plus 12 all over a. And now Our second lesson is the introduction to solving inequalities. In general, an inequality is a mathematical statement involving these 5 symbols. And I also put the properties of inequality. There are the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division properties. And our first example is solve 4 minus 3p is greater than 16 minus p. Graph the solution on a number line. So we first want to start by adding p on both sides. And we get 4 minus 2p is greater than 16. And now we want to subtract 4 on both sides, giving us negative 2p is greater than 12. And now we divide negative 2 on both sides, giving us p is less than negative 6 since we divided by a negative number. And when we graph it on a number line, we have an open circle at negative 6, and since p is less than negative 6, we draw a line going this way. And for our second example, we have 2x plus 1 is greater or equal to 3, and 3x minus 4 is less than or equal to 17. Graph the solution. So we first want to simplify both equations. So we subtract minus 1 on both sides, giving us 2x is greater or equal to 2. And we divide 2 on both sides, giving us x is greater than or equal to 1. And for the second inequality, we add 4 on both sides, simplifying it to 3x is less than or equal to 21. We divide 3 on both sides, giving us x is less than or equal to 7. And when we graph that on a number line, we're going to put a closed circle on 1 and a closed circle on 7. And since x is greater than 1 but less than 7, it's going to include the numbers between them. And that's the graph of the solution. And moving on to our third example, Claire's test average in her world history class is 90. The test average is 2/3 of the final grade, and the homework average is 1/3 of the final grade. What homework average does Claire need in order to have a final grade of at least 93? So we're first going to make a word expression to show what we're looking for. So we're looking for the final grade, which equals to 2/3 of her test average plus 1/3 of her homework average. And we can substitute the final grade as F equals 2/3 of 90, which is stated in the word problem, plus 1/3 H. We're gonna use these variables. And then we know that F has to be greater or equal to 93. And we can substitute this entire equation into F, giving us 2/3 times 90 plus 1/3 H is greater than or equal to 93. We can simplify 60 plus 1/3 H is greater or equal to 93. And we subtract 60 on both sides, simplifying it to 1/3 times H is greater or equal to 33. Oops. And we can multiply both sides by 3, and we get h is greater or equal to 99. So Claire's homework average must be at least 99 in order for her to have a final grade of at least 93. And these are our lessons for today. Thank you for listening.